So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Matt. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself and your business to the community?
Yeah, my name is Matt Bulley. I'm the Managing Director and founder of Moriteft Consulting Limited. And essentially, I'm a consultant that will help businesses in the defence sector. So that's either some of the large OEMs who are looking to bid into some of the main government programs, or suppliers who are already supplying into defence and would like to do a little bit more, or people who see the defence sector but think it's all a little bit tricky and a little bit alien to some of the work they normally do, and therefore trying to access some of those opportunities.
Amazing. How did you start? There's a million questions in my head right now, but I guess the first one is, how did you end up in this business?
So my background is engineering, manufacturing, operations. And I set my business up now just about 2 years ago. Prior to that, I had worked for 15 years for Caterpillar, and I've been the managing director of the site in Shrewsbury. And the last 8 years there, a key part of the business there is supplying into the military, so doing engines and power packs and large gearboxes for the British Army, amongst others. And some really clever technology and some really clever people looking at engineering solutions, supporting those vehicles as they go and do what they need to do, primarily for training, but equally if we do need to, is very prevalent at the moment in terms of the war going on in Ukraine with Russia, and that level of readiness and everything that goes through to support that. It was a fascinating business, and equally a real purpose in terms of making sure our armed service personnel have got the best kit they can possibly have for the right price of the taxpayer. But exciting business. Yeah,
it sounds it. And it's, how would you describe the transition from being a managing director of someone else's business to being your own business and holding that key to your own destiny?
Yeah, so I probably always had a bit of an inkling as to, could I run my own business? Mm-hmm. And being part of a huge multinational organization with plenty of support. The early part of my career, I'd worked in the automotive sector and had worked for a smaller privately run business that was growing, and I'd had some early learning experiences there that weren't necessarily the most structured, but it certainly put me in the deep end of learning how to fail fast. And why did it go wrong? And then when I transitioned to Caterpillar, there was an awful lot of structure and training in terms of business processes, problem solving, leadership, strategy, capability, financial planning, that I was able to tap into and required to understand and report upwards and lead my team. And so having all that support around you is fantastic. And I've sort of seen the two sides of that from my prior role, but then the transition of being there on that first morning when I've decided I'm setting up my own business, and then having to really wear all the hats, and you sort of think you know something, but when you've got it and actually do it yourself is the true test of, do you understand it? And so the challenge has been a personal challenge of what are the bits I'm comfortable with, and part of the reason why we're having this conversation is a little bit of how do I get that exposure and how do I improve my ability to connect with the right people that might need some help, and hopefully my experience can assist them to achieve what they're trying to achieve for their business. But it's the wearing multiple hats, not thinking I can do it all myself, and still where I needed a team when I was the managing director of Caterpillar is equally there's a big network of people who are experts, and there are things I do really well and there's things they can really help me with, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
No, amazing. Thank you for sharing. It resonates with so many people. Looking back then from now and that journey that you've been on over the last couple of years, is there anything you would have changed and done differently?
I've been fortunate that I've been busy since I started, and I've been able to support certain businesses. And there was probably a time where I had said yes to too many clients and taken on too much work. So I was at this sort of feast phase, which is not a problem, because the first few months you're sitting there tapping your fingers saying, where am I going to get some work from? So, but I was busy, and probably too busy, and not doing the highest. I wasn't paying enough attention to the people that I'd made a commitment to. But equally, there's then the scope of the work that they're asking me to do, and me being quite firm with saying, well, no, that's actually, this is what we've signed up to do, and this is how much time it's going to take to deliver that project. And I know we've come in on this, guys, and we've looked over here, and there's another issue and another issue. I can help with those things, but not all at once. And so trying to be quite deliberate around the work we've agreed to do and how that's going to format in terms of time, and just being clear from the start around that. You know, I've only got this because I've got these other clients, or no, I've got this and nothing else on at the moment. I have some bandwidth if we want to do some more, and it's the balance of the feast and famine, and making sure I'm being diligent on the commitments I've made.
Yeah, no, amazing, and again, so true. So, keeping on the same pathway, how have you changed in the transition, you as a person, from MD to owner MD?
I thought I was aware of what was going on in the industry, and I thought I knew our customers. However, now needing to connect more broadly and doing that on my own, I use LinkedIn a huge amount, and I'm using the local business networks a huge amount, and I'm spending more time listening and talking to people, and I've got a much better perspective now on actually what's going on, and what programs are moving and which people are moving around, and I probably would have done a better job in my previous job had I had that sight and awareness. I didn't, and there were others in the organisation that didn't, and therefore, I feel better informed around the industry I'm working in, because I have to be, because if I don't win any work. So.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And have you noticed a difference with the cost of living crisis going on at the moment, or the economy in general? Have you noticed a difference in your side of the business, or is it still quite stable?
I wouldn't say it's stable, but I wouldn't say it's declining. So the longer trend of defence spending, and also the technology shift, I think is quite sector specific for defence. Yes, the cost of materials is going up. Yes, the energy is going up. But part of the reason the energy is going up is because of partly, not fully, but partly because of the impact of the conflict that's taking place in Ukraine at the moment with Russia. And probably 10 years ago, and maybe even 5 years ago, where people thought the equipment and technology was going to go in terms of automation and not many land vehicles, and things being fought at distance, actually we've realised some of the frailties in our capabilities, and it's not just the UK, across Europe. NATO countries are realising that actually we are quite vulnerable if called upon, and the supply chains and the time at which a long drawn out conflict, rather than something that's an 8 weeks sort of go and stop something before it comes too large, going quickly, quash it and come back out, is actually transformed quite significantly with the recent invasion. So there was a little bit of that with Crimea a while ago, but now we're into Ukraine, and that's really shifted the spending, and that's why the instability is coming from the government changes at the moment, and actually some consistency on policy. And Ben Wallace is doing a very good and consistent job around, yes, the size of the army, are we having the right conversations there, and how is that supported by the equipment that they need, and how quickly are we looking at that procurement cycle and making sure we've got the right technology at the right time. So the spend is up. Yes, the material costs are up, but actually that will all stabilise within the time frame that we then look at the equipment as it gets delivered and handed to the end user.
Fabulous insight, thank you. And then my last question is looking back on your journey, can you sum it up in a small sentence or 3 words?
Good question. It's been hugely varied. So I've been, without the career path I've taken, I wouldn't have been to some of the places in the world that I've been fortunate enough to go to. And they're not all in manufacturing and heavy engineering. They're not always your holiday destinations, but there's certainly there's something to learn from wherever you go. There are some fantastic people who are all trying to learn and improve and better themselves, and earn a living, but also with purpose for trying to deliver an excellent product. And that's true across the globe. And often, as a leader of those people, there's some frustration sometimes of why aren't we getting it, but actually that's when you need to look in the mirror and say, that's I'm not doing my job. No, that's not a 3-word answer, but it's a sort of place, people, and I think it's probably purpose. It's tying together the purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. And I've set up my business now because I really feel the purpose of making sure I can assist great quality businesses in the UK, small, medium or large, really understand how the procurement system's working and where's that niche, how can they get involved, and how are we able to give the great quality product to our service personnel.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that insight, and thank you for your honesty and your open answers today. It's fabulous.